A warm welcome to all our viewers to our series Natural Medicine. And today I'm taking you with me on a journey into TCM with Dieter Hölle. He is a specialist in general medicine but has obtained a wealth of secret knowledge in China from barefoot doctors. And what these doctors taught him, and above all, I also read his book, and that's why I invited him today, how we can integrate this healing system for ourselves through different mixtures into everyday life. So stay tuned. Hello, dear Dieter. Nice to have you back.
Hello, Karina. I'm happy to.
I found it so interesting to read the book. You really have obtained a wealth of knowledge about barefoot doctors, which, luckily, you're making available to us today in your book. But what are barefoot doctors?
Well, that's in the introduction, exactly. I travelled a bit through China, also with my teacher, with my Qigong teacher, and that's how I met barefoot doctors. Barefoot doctors were introduced under Mao Zedong, I think, because there weren't enough doctors in the countryside. So then there were such small medical centres, and they're talented people who had a high level of basic medical knowledge were trained to become barefoot doctors. That means they'd learned a lot of academic medicine, but also learned acupuncture. They learned Qigong in part. They learned how to use herbs. And because they were poor and worked a lot in the fields, they didn't have shoes. And that's why they were simply called barefoot doctors. That's the whole secret behind it. But for me, it was valuable.
And what distinguishes knowledge from these barefoot doctors from a classic TCM training? In China, it's taught at the university, isn't it?
A good question, of course. A lot is taught at the university. A lot was also taught Chinese medicine in the sense of naturopathy. Acupuncture, herbal medicine is a big subject, and it's taught just as much and in as much detail as academic medicine. So every conventional doctor knows about TCM and vice versa. They have knowledge in both directions. Unlike us, there are good, well-trained doctors, I have to say, in all areas, and the barefoot doctors often have knowledge from their ancestors, knowledge that has been passed down from generation to generation. And that often deviates from the usual standard recipes taught at university.
And you have incorporated this knowledge into your book.
Yeah, some of them are even recipes of barefoot doctors. I've partly changed standard recipes in this direction. The barefoot doctors do that too. It's also very common in normal TCM teaching that you can change a standard recipe depending on the patient and their condition.
We've already had interviews about how specific the diagnostics and the therapy really are. It's not like we do in academic medicine. You have a headache, then there's something against it, but we've already discussed that if the viewers watch your other interviews. Today, I would like to go into your book again on the different issues. We now have Wu Ling Sang.
I think that's on page 30.
Exactly, that was page 30. And I always think it's good that you just listed these symptoms, but also the indications, and then the hint from the Chinese medicine theory. So what is really the subject behind it? And this is now about the healthy bladder.
That's a big concern for me because this bladder remedy is amazing. Many patients also use this independently without asking a doctor. They are allowed to do that too. There's no great danger in it. And they are really excited about how the bladder infections heal.
Especially for bladder infections.
Yeah, there are people who constantly have bladder infections. Every couple of weeks they have a new bladder infection and there's always a new antibiotic. And at some point they get fed up, always swallowing poison, and it still doesn't go away in the long run. And I've already experienced permanent healing a few times with this relatively simple drug.
Wow, great! What is the theme of the bladder? I always find that beautiful in TCM.
Well, the bladder belongs to the kidneys and, as in our sense, is there for water excretion.
And what is the background, the topic of water excretion? kidneys, also from the psyche?
Yeah, of course. It's often that it occurs in women, it must be said. That's my impression. And these are often women who are also in psychological distress, also in relation to sexuality. There are many variants, and they also get a change in their lives, and they're very, very, very happy to take it. I'll just say a couple of other things. Special massages they can do, as in Qigong, but also from acupressure, and that together actually always helps tremendously.
Okay, so we always have a lifestyle effect integrated.
Exactly, yeah. Translated, that means powder of the 5 components. But we see there are 6 in it, actually even 7. Well, I extended that. In China, it's often called extended form of Wu Ling San. The 5 is still retained, although there are 6 or 7 ingredients. That would now be another case where the recipe was changed a bit to strengthen it. Wu simply means 5. And as I said, the 5 are normally in there, but I added some to it. For example, the teraxacin, which is a very powerful detoxifying agent, but it can also kill bacteria. An important substance. And then there are substances in it that are warming. The bladder is very sensitive to cold. We all know that getting cold feet, cold stomachs, and even cold hands can lead to bladder infections. So the formula warms and it gets rid of too much moisture. Moisture can be somewhere else, not just in the kidneys. It can be in the tissue, in the whole tissue. Then the patients say, I'm so bloated, I feel so tense, my skin's already tight from this moisture. And you can also eliminate that with this recipe.
Ah, yes, okay.
And there are also detoxifying substances that just cause the body to, become cleaner. But they also drain poisons that have arisen from the antibiotic therapy and also from the disease itself.
So I can also use it if you just had a regular antibiotic intake? That would be a win-win situation.
Yeah, exactly. This remedy, if you have frequent bladder infections, if they are often treated with antibiotics, because it detoxifies and expels moisture and strengthens the bladder itself. So the defense function in the bladder is actually very weak in terms of how humans are constructed. There aren't that many defenses. But with this drug, the little that is there is used, and used heavily, used properly.
This theme Wu, the 5 elements, 5 phases of change. Does the 5 generally play a role in the recipe? That you always integrate these 5 elements when you make a recipe?
No, so the 5 elements are something completely different and actually don't have a big place in TCM. In acupuncture, yeah, well, to a limited extent. Much more so in nutritional therapy. Nutrition is a therapy and the 5 elements are very common. But you don't actually use that with herbs.
Okay, I was just thinking 5, that's kind of...
No, that just means there are 5 herbs in it. This always happens when there are 5 herbs. 6 has its own word. For 8 there is the word ba, which means 8. These are often simple terms for the amount of medicines that are in it and the plants that are in it. So it's easy to explain, but that's right, there are. We sometimes say 5 elements, but actually it means the 5 changes. There are many names for it.
Now, of course, there are also warnings, such as use prohibited during pregnancy. What could be the reason?
Oh, well, this is just... We have to write them down if drugs were not tried during pregnancy. And of course, there are also drugs that can be critical during pregnancy, especially the teraxacin, for example. In some cases, also the cinnamomi. So it's pointed out that one should be careful there. This is just precautionary.
If I now had a chronic infection, how do I use it? What is the best thing for me to do then? Do I take the book to the pharmacy and say, here, I need exactly that, or are there other options? Or do I need it very quickly?
A conventional pharmacy, well, will be overwhelmed. You need a pharmacy that is specially geared towards TCM, because they then have to convert. For these recipes, the amounts given are raw drug. Raw drug also always means a herb that's been dried and crushed. And people used to do it at home. They made their own tea, which was very cumbersome. It often has cooking times of up to 2 hours.
Oh, God.
Exactly. Well, that's very cumbersome. And it also has a strong, unpleasant odour. A lot of blends just don't actually smell very good. Most of the time it's roots or bark. More rarely it's fruits and blossoms. And they just usually don't smell good when cooked. And then you still have to strain, add something new, because some are not allowed to cook too long. You added them later. You can hardly do that today with working life anymore. Nobody can guarantee that anymore. And that's why there are more and more TCM pharmacies that prepare this accordingly, which have the medicinal herbs and specifically the compactates, which I advocate. That would be a powder mix that you pour hot water over, and that corresponds in the completion, almost. Well, you can say it corresponds to what has been cooked, so definitely in terms of value, with the advantage that they are tested. There are no poisonous mixtures. So often in the past they just came from China via a long shipping route. They became mouldy in the meantime, had mixtures from the harvest, had mixtures from growing. Sometimes I think there were phases that there was some cortisone mixed into the mixtures and such. And they're all now being checked and tested. So the pharmacy quality that is available today, especially with these so-called compactates, it's excellent, it's good.
With these compactates, you can often see we have a bottle here.
Yeah, I have one standing here. Yeah, I brought one.
There is relatively little powder.
Well, the fill level is about here.
As a Scot, you would think, why don't they fill the bottle up? So why? Is it that efficient?
Well, that would be the amount for 3 days. And it says how to mix it. This is poured with hot water. In that case, I think you pour 350 millilitres over it and drink it for 3 days. So that's actually quite a lot and corresponds to a large amount of tea.
But it's just like a drug, right? So you can use it really for acute treatment.
Of course, you can use it. Exactly. That's how it's meant to be. And this powder that I have in my hand, that would now be a compactate. You can get it in the station pharmacy in Kempten. They have an online shop, and I think they're allowed to supply every other pharmacy. This means that every pharmacy can order the compactate at the pharmacy in Kempten. So that's accessible almost everywhere.
I still know these products from babies back then.
Exactly, at the pharmacy. You just have to say, you might have to wait a bit one day. We order it for you, or you can order it directly there. So they have an online shop. It's also possible. But in general, any pharmacy is possible. Because I believe the pharmacy is licensed for wholesalers, and only they are allowed to supply pharmacies. That's what I know.
Okay, great.
You can order it in every pharmacy. I think that's great.
So in the end, I'll save myself all the other drugs too, right? I then don't need painkillers and antibiotics.
Well, partially. We have to be careful. There are bladder infections that are critical, that are dangerous, but there are also bacteria that are dangerous, so a doctor should have looked at it. The main indication is always when you have bladder weakness. If you keep getting bladder infections, as soon as you have a fever no longer belongs in layman's hands. It's just too dangerous. Because fever really can also be bacteria, which are dangerous.
If you now know that you regularly have bladder infections, but none at the moment, could I also use it even though I have no symptoms, just to solve the issue?
Well, it can be used, yeah.
Yes, so if I say, OK, I don't have anything right now, but I know I've had this problem regularly in the past, then I use this tea mixture to finally sort it out.
Exactly. It should be used for a while, but it's excellent. I know many who have had problems for years and are so excited to say now I'm just free of the problem. I no longer have the bladder infections. In theory, it can always come back if the basic problem persists, but otherwise the praise for the remedy is very high, I would say.
Okay, great, really great. Then I would go on with you. What else we have? Or is there anything else that you would like to say about it?
Not really.
Are we through everything?
It's still saying symptoms of bloody urine. You should have that checked out by a doctor. So fever, feverish cystitis, bloody urine, that needs to be clarified. You can't just go ahead and say, I'll take that now. Very brave people will maybe do it, but then they've been brave with other things before and usually know their way around quite well and know when they need to go to the doctor and when they don't.
Great. Now, I think there is a very exciting topic coming up, namely the eye powder. With this blurry vision, decrease in vision. I mean, I know that a little too. Do you have that on the second page too?
Yeah, I've just looked at page 32. Of course, I don't always know the page numbers, but it's not that important. But for the viewers, if they buy the book later, they can write it down now. It's page 32. They can find the remedy eye powder 1.
What is your reason for poor eyesight from your point of view? We know that in old age, or for me it was through pregnancy, for example, then there was always a bit of lost sight.
Well, it's interesting that the Chinese connect something with every organ. So anger with the liver, but there's also access to the organ via some sense organs. With the kidney, it's the ear. With the liver, it's the eyes, funnily enough. Yeah, and many eye diseases in Chinese medicine are treated through the liver. I was surprised in China at the beginning of the acupuncture. They always prick the liver point on the foot down there, until I found out that it has a big connection to the eyes. And I believe they treat no eye disease without treating the liver.
Interesting.
The gateway to the liver are the eyes, they say in China.
Oh, okay, but now I can also take a holistic approach by saying I use the tea mixture, but could then still use acupuncture. Would that be the meridians which I then activate?
Yeah, in that the qi can flow better and the relationship with the liver becomes clearer. But the eyes are the gateway to the liver. And really, if you treat the liver, you notice there is a weakness. And this can be someone who is also easily angry, possibly because anger belongs to the liver. But there are other liver weaknesses as well, through illnesses, through previously experienced inflammations, through healed hepatitis, for example, that the eyes have become worse, also due to the medication. Then you can use it very well, the eye powder, but you can also use liver medication. So in the last show, we discussed Chai Hu. Chai Hu Shugan San is a liver remedy, and that can also be supplemented theoretically. But that would take us too far. So as a layperson, you shouldn't supplement the medication yourself. This is reserved for the TCM doctor. So the symptoms for this remedy are more the blurred vision, but also strained eyes.
When you work at the computer all day.
Or read on the mobile phone. You suddenly get away from the phone. You can no longer read well because your eyes are so fixed on a small area with the mobile phone. And the eyes are simply lazy. And then you see, often not so well afterwards, this blurry vision for a few minutes after checking the phone. And it works great there.
This conjunctivitis is often an issue, especially in kindergarten and so on, where children have it more often. Can I use that there too?
Yeah, you can use that there too. Yes, it's suitable for conjunctivitis, also in the eye. The entire eye is the gateway to the liver, so not only the pupil, not the part with which one sees, also this white, also the surroundings, the eyelids. They're treated individually. I think it's a great story that they discovered it so early on and can also treat it that way.
Yeah, really great. Is it also for something bacterial, like, for example, conjunctivitis, which is often contagious, it is often said?
Yeah, there are contagious viral eye conjunctivitis.
Can I apply something from TCM? Or integrate it into the family?
Yeah, I'm now recommending something that is not in TCM. I recommend taking some cosmetic pads and soak them with chamomile tea and put them on the eyes. Chamomile tea works really well. As a child, I had a lot of eye infections, especially conjunctivitis. My mother always did it. The ophthalmologists were completely against it, but as a child, I found it very beneficial. I've always said to my mother, I need that tea on my eyes again.
The chamomile also has a special effect.
It has an antibacterial effect, very strong. It's not that much used in China, but it really is a great plant too. It's still in the indication. I might want to go into it briefly. We've discussed declining eyesight, of course, in a certain way with age. This decline, the speed of the decline can be reduced, and then it cures glaucoma. It's a difficult term for our viewers. The glaucoma is when the pressure inside the eye gets too high. Those affected know that.
I've seen it before, then the eye protrudes.
You can measure that, the protruding eyes. That's something else. This is more so with thyroid disease. It can also have soothing effects because they often have problems with their eyes. So it is correct. Then there are people in general who get painful eyes from reading for a long time. They say, I get pressure in my eyes when I read. I can think of one patient in particular who says, whenever I read for a long time, I can no longer read for a long time, then my eyes hurt. She really put it like that. They hurt, and she's very happy about this eye powder. She says, I can now read much, much longer than I used to, and it does a lot for me. I can also see more clearly, and that blurriness comes much later.
One always says when there is something wrong with the eyes that it is simply there so that one should take a better look at life to certain circumstances or situations.
Yeah, I don't know that from Chinese medicine, but it is correct, it is true. It's like that. In our psychology, one would interpret it that way.
And can I then also take this tea mixture as a support? Just to be able to take a better look?
I would say yes.
We've had it before, right? That you can also get to the subliminal topics through these herbs. Because I think, how do you see the symptoms? Why do they also appear in our lives? Is it always something physical, or is it actually...
Well, there's almost always something else behind it. If you take a quick look at the recipes again, I don't want to go through all of them. That would be too detailed. There is Bupleury radix in second place. We've discussed this before with Chai Hu Shu Gan San. This also means that the qi can flow better and is better distributed in the body. And that which shoots up very much, what happens when you read for a long time, that goes down. We all know that. If you read for a long time, you get a red head and a hot head, and that is also relaxed, calmed down by this drug. And precisely by Bupleury radix, this ingredient. I see something else that is important to me in this mixture, namely the fructus lyciae, that comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sixth place. This is nothing other than what we call Goji. Have you ever heard of this?
Ah, yes, that berry.
Yeah, those are the red ones. Basically, it's the Chinese barberry. In our country, barberries are somewhat poisonous. In China, it's a remedy, but it's another barberry that really doesn't contain any toxins either. A great plant, a great fruit that you get dried. In China, you can buy it on almost every corner in the village. And the Chinese then put it in rice, they cook it with the rice, or they eat 20, 30 of these fruits every day. It doesn't necessarily taste great, but I think it's very good in rice. You can also put it in tea. It sweetens a bit and gives a tea a different taste, especially in white tea, which may not be very tasty, and then you just add it. Great, so the fructus lyciae has another property, it moisturizes. So there are always these basic properties of medicines, and that's clearly the humidification, so the skin, the eyes, but it makes the saliva flow better. Some people complain about a dry mouth. I wake up at night and I can't even speak properly because everything is so dry.
Okay, then you have this general tea here.
Exactly. Maybe a little tip, if I may say so. I think the viewers will be interested too if you do that with your tongue. You can also do it at home, and suddenly the saliva will start to flow, and then you know the problem of dry mouth. And above all, people have a real struggle with eating dry biscuits, then the saliva is missing, so it's important that you really lengthen your tongue, make circles, and that's enough. Just once in one direction, then the other direction. You'll immediately notice 100% at home that the saliva will start to flow. It always works reliably.
Thanks for the tip.
A bit off topic.
If the viewers really say they want to delve deeper into this whole topic, read more about the ways, where can you find the best sources on the subject?
Well, there's actually nothing that comes to mind spontaneously where you can read something like that.
So where do I get the opportunity?
Well, everything is only written for doctors, for therapists, but actually nothing for lay people. As a layman, it's almost impossible to find out unless there is a lecture, such as I've already given in my patient groups, that their doctor just gives a lecture about Chinese herbal medicine. You can go there, and then I hope they make it relatively easy and good. But otherwise, in writing, there is nothing.
And where can I get your book from?
You can order it in bookstores. It has an ISBN number, or you can order it directly from the company in Switzerland, quantisana.ch.
Okay, great, perfect. Then thank you very much. I would like to do more interviews because there is so much secret knowledge in it, and it's thematically so well structured. I would be very happy if you could come to visit us again.
I would like to come again.
Thank you, dear Dieter. See you soon.
And see you soon, dear viewers.
Dear viewers, I hope you were able to take something away from the great TCM secret knowledge from the Barefoot Doctors. As always, you can find more exciting interviews at QS24.tv. And thank you for watching. Have a wonderful time and see you soon. Bye.